Welcome to Burk Aware. My name is Ben Lawson. Today I want to have a conversation about multi-factor authentication, or 2FA, or MFA, or all of the other fun acronyms that refer to that simple truth of we need to move beyond username and password to a multiple factor authentication mechanism. So multi-factor authentication is simply something you know, your username and password, and then something you have, like a physical token or an application on your smartphone, or even something that you are, like your fingerprint or your Face ID or some other biometric control. Multi-factor authentication has been around for a very long time. We've seen a strong push for the use of multi-factor authentication from a regulatory perspective for the last several years, probably for the last decade or more. We see a lot of stress around the need for multi-factor authentication for administrative accounts or for remote VPN access. But I want to stop and talk about multi-factor authentication in more general terms, because we truly have reached a point in our society, a point in the evolution of cybersecurity awareness and, frankly, cybersecurity threats, that we really should be considering the use of multi-factor authentication for everything that we do online, for everything that we do that involves authenticating to a computer or authenticating to a website or authenticating to a mobile device or tablet. We really need to up our game in terms of security, because the absence of multi-factor authentication simply opens the door incredibly wide for cyber criminals to come in, to infiltrate an environment, to cause a lot of harm with very little effort. And we're quickly reaching a point where passwords are far too easy to crack. We have significant computing power, specifically graphical computing power, GPU power, that makes hash cracking and other mechanisms for stolen hashes, stolen encrypted passwords very easy to figure out. So the days of just relying on our username and password really should be behind us. Add to the fact that we have great technology that makes it easier to crack passwords for the cyber criminals, we also are in a world where we are very susceptible to social engineering attacks. We live in a world where it is frankly very easy to convince us to provide our username and password in one form or another, or to provide enough information to make it easy to guess what that password is. MFA or 2FA or whatever acronym you like to use, some form of multi-factor authentication really puts an additional barrier in place to prevent the cyber criminal from being able to leverage that stolen username or password. We have a lot of great technologies available to us today. We started down this path many years ago of considering multi-factor authentication, or in those days 2FA, second factor authentication, as let's just add some security questions, or let's just add some basic information that you would need to know in addition to your password. That was great a decade ago or longer, but unfortunately with the advent of the internet, with the growth of social media, with the ease of data mining when it comes to figuring out anything and everything about a person's life, it's very easy to find and enumerate the answers that would be associated with most security questions. That's been further complicated by the fact that we have lived through several breaches of major credit providers. So when Equifax was compromised, Equifax had a massive repository of hundreds of millions of individuals. And in that repository, we had almost every variable that could be used for a security question, from, where did you live during this year? To whom did you pay your water bill in 1996? What was the approximate amount for your first mortgage? All of that information was leaked on the dark web. It is readily available for most of us. So we really have had to evolve beyond those types of security questions to other forms of MFA. The next most popular form of multi-factor authentication that came after that was using text messaging, using SMS messaging to send us codes as a second factor of authentication. That's better. It is certainly more secure than security questions, especially when you put some timeout variables around those codes. But even that is probably not the most secure approach that we could use to a provided code or one-time passcode philosophy to multi-factor authentication, because we live in a world where cyber criminals have discovered ways to social engineer those codes when they come to our phones, or even gain access to our phones so they can see those codes come in real time. So hopefully we're moving past that, and individuals are starting to use passcode or OTP, one-time passcode generators, on your smart devices, on your tablets, on your phones, and even on your desktops. This keeps you in control of understanding and having access to that one-time passcode. It makes it more difficult to intercept, and it's simply a stronger form of authentication. We also have opportunities to use biometrics now that we didn't have even 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. I'm speaking to you on a webcam that has the ability to map my face and use things like Microsoft Hello or Apple Face ID to identify me via camera and make something that I am one of the factors for multi-factor authentication. And we had for many years the concept of Touch ID on our smart devices, using a fingerprint to unlock devices. We have that built into laptops and phones to this day. Like I said, we have Face ID. We're starting to get Voice ID as a mechanism. We're even seeing typing tendencies as a mechanism for authentication. So moving into biometric controls is a good advancement in this area. They're not foolproof. Biometric controls can be compromised, they can be simulated, they can be spoofed, but it is a good additional layer of security. The most popular technology that we see today, or that is really taking root, is the concept of a passkey. You're seeing Microsoft, you're seeing Google, you're seeing Meta and others adopt this strategy of downloading a secure encrypted passkey to a trusted device and letting that encrypted token become a second factor of authentication. This is a very strong approach to authentication and adding an additional factor to who you are in the authentication process. So definitely something worth investigating, and something I think we'll see more and more of in the coming months and years. But more than anything, there are lots of different types of multi-factor authentication. I'd recommend you explore all those that are available to you. But more before you do that, or really the reason you need to do that, is we should be running multi-factor authentication on every platform that we use. It should be something that we strive to have for every financial account, whether it be a credit card account or a banking account, a mobile banking account, online web banking account. If you have PayPal or Venmo or any other payment platform or P2P payment mechanism, you should want multi-factor authentication in place. You want to use this when you're using password vaults. You want to use this for all of your e-retail sites. You want to use this anywhere where you could be compromised, your identity could be compromised, or significant information about you could be gleaned and you could be at financial risk. Every significant player in the online world today supports some form of multi-factor authentication, whether it be an e-retailer like Walmart or Amazon or Target or some other online source. All of your social media platforms support multi-factor authentication, from Instagram and Facebook to X and LinkedIn and all of those platforms. We really should be leveraging this everywhere where our identity is in play and our financial well-being is in play. And it's something we need to take the time to teach to our friends and family. Many of us have, older parents who aren't as technically savvy. Help them walk through that process. Help them understand the value of those security controls. Teach your children, your nieces and your nephews and those younger generations the value of using multi-factor authentication from day one, so that they're more secure, so that they build safe habits as they grow up. I just worked with a client, I've worked with a client most of this week, who had some very strong security controls in place in their environment, but they didn't have MFA in a couple of locations with some administrative accounts and with some remote access scenarios where, even with the great security controls they still had some issues. They still saw the loss of some data. They still saw the isolation of some workstations and some servers. Multi-factor authentication could have prevented that. It could have prevented those initial intrusions, because even if those credentials would have been compromised, the cyber criminals would not have had access to those additional factors of authentication. So think about multi-factor authentication. Take the time to set up those tools. Store those pass keys securely. Use your mobile device that you always have with you. No one loses their smartphone these days. We always keep it at our side. Use it as a mechanism for one-time passcodes and other OTP and MFA controls. Take the time to secure your online world and make sure that you are safe and secure. And share this awareness with everyone that you know. That's why we're here. That's why Burk has this channel. That's why we're putting these videos together. We want to make others aware. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time of listening to this talk about multi-factor authentication. Again, my name is Ben Lawson, and this is Burk IT's Burk Aware.